Normally making egg salad means boiling or steaming eggs. We'd like to give you another option that's even lower cost but still full of nutrition. Some of the main ingredients we'll use are chickpeas, onions, pickles, sriracha sauce, and a key ingredient, black salt, which gives it some of that eggy taste. So here we're making good use of our Instant Pot, and normally I throw dry chickpeas in with water, some salt, some oil to reduce foaming, and maybe some pepper or other garlic and spices, and then I'll cook it for about 45 minutes. This may not look the most appetizing, but I'm draining off some of the liquid, which is called aquafaba. I'll use that later in things like baked goods to replace oil. It's great for meringues. I've also used it in some frostings, and I also like to use it in making some vegan mayonnaise. It's great stuff, and I recommend you keep it. You can reduce it for a more viscous liquid. It should be about the consistency of egg whites. This is something else Matt and I have started to do recently, which aligns with our financial independence retire early philosophy. We buy things like garlic and ginger, and we will then shred that in the food processor into pretty fine pieces, and then freeze that in an ice cube tray and use them later. It makes sure that we don't waste any, and it's very convenient because everything is already prepared and ready to use. In this dish, like so many others, onions play a major role in adding flavor, but can I just say I really dislike peeling and chopping onions. There's just so much going on from crying to getting the peels off. If anyone has suggestions on how to do this better, I'm all ears. And just a note, I'm substituting in regular yellow onions because I didn't have any green onions, but those green onions would really add some nice contrast and color to the dish, so if you can, I'd recommend getting them. Typically, I'll have some homemade bread on hand, and that's because I'll use it as a base to put stir-fried veggies on top with some hummus, and that makes my weeknight meal quite often. It's delicious. And in this case, I put some bread into the food processor and made some quick breadcrumbs for the recipe. So now it's time to assemble ingredients. I'm doing more substitutions here using minced onion instead of onion powder. Here's the all-important black salt, which adds that sulfury flavor, and in go the onions, which again I substituted in regular yellow onions. Okay, I just put in some dried dillweed, and that's a substitute for the fresh the recipe calls for. Here I'm putting in quite a few extra dill pickles because I decided to just use those and omit the celery. In goes the lemon juice, which adds some nice acidity and fruitiness. With mayonnaise, sometimes I'll mix up some aquafaba and canola oil for a vegan mayonnaise, but this time I just decided to take a shortcut since I'd been baking earlier in the day and used regular mayonnaise. Next comes the paprika. I sometimes will use smoked paprika, but decided to keep it true to the recipe on that one. In go the breadcrumbs from our earlier food processor pulsing. For the garlic, we decided to pan roast it for just a few minutes to bring out the flavor. In goes some turmeric. This adds a nice color because again this is supposed to be somewhat similar to egg salad and some additional flavor. And time to mix it up. Also keep in mind I'm using my KitchenAid mixer here because I love using it, but you could very easily mix this up in a bowl. Letting the mixer go a little bit longer after adding the chickpeas, I was aiming for a mashing of the chickpeas, and this is still something I'm experimenting with. So I drained it for just a few seconds and then decided to chop it up with a regular food chopper by hand afterward because I was just not sure that the mashing would work well for the consistency I wanted. This is Matt's on Fire. I hope you'll try eggless chickpea salad in your home, and we'll be back next week with our next video. See you then.